tragedy. It is very unexpected. We expected him to die by the bull, not by the bullet.
This is Demetrius Allen, a 27-year-old professional bull rider whose life would be tragically cut short by his own wife after a seemingly innocent interaction with a new neighbor. On the evening of September 12, 2022, police were dispatched to a frantic 911 call where a woman claimed she was about to shoot her husband. What seemed like just a report would quickly escalate into something far darker. Upon arrival at the scene, in the parking lot of an apartment complex, officers found bullet holes coming from a nearby apartment, the very apartment of the caller. But nothing could have prepared them for the shocking discovery inside. Just hours after competing at the Utah State Fair, Demetrius would be found lying lifeless, having been shot 7 times through the door by his wife. What seemed like a random act of violence was far more than that. It was the culmination of a toxic, jealous relationship, where insecurities and an inability to let go led to this devastating moment. How did things spiral so violently, and what drove his wife to commit such an unforgivable act? Before we unfold the tragic events, let's step back and see how everything came to this point. It's in Salt Lake City, Utah, a place renowned for its stunning mountain landscapes, vibrant Mormon community, and iconic national parks like Zion, Arches, and Canyonlands, that we find the story of Demetrius. But it's here, in this city, that Demetrius's life would unfold in ways beyond just his passion for bull riding. Demetrius Omar Latif Allen, known to many as Onsi Mitchell, was a 25-year-old bull rider from Houston, Texas.
How about that?
Born on August 22, 1995, Demetrius was not only an athlete, but a dedicated father and son. Raised in Houston, he was introduced to bull riding at a very young age, a sport that would soon define his life. As a child, Demetrius showed exceptional promise. He was just 2 years old when his mother enrolled him in a sheep riding competition, a humble beginning for a young boy who would grow up to dominate the sport. At just 5 years old, Demetrius was already riding steers, and by the time he turned 18, he was competing on the Professional Bull Riders PBR circuit.
And what a way to start things off on a Friday night for a man who comes in number 15 in the Velocity Tour standings. A win here in Syracuse would get him in the top 40.
His impressive career quickly took off, and he became known not just for his skill, but for his dedication to the sport and his resilience in the face of its physical demands. His professional career reached impressive heights, with Demetrius ranking 23rd globally in the world of bull riding. He earned respect from his peers and fans alike, especially for his achievements in the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo, a historic all-black rodeo that he competed in alongside his father. Demetrius made history as one of the few African-American bull riders to compete at such a prestigious level, and his legacy in the rodeo world grew with each passing year. Despite his success in the ring, Demetrius was more than just a bull rider. He was deeply committed to his family, especially his daughter, Nyla. As a father, Demetrius's world revolved around his little girl.
Good, Nyla? Say hi to Jesse.
Nyla, just 4 years old at the time of his passing, was the joy of his life. Their relationship was one of pure love, and Nyla spoke often of her father with pride. She would tell anyone who would listen about the fishing trips and the moments spent with her dad, always smiling as she recounted their adventures. Demetrius's love for his daughter was immeasurable, and he poured his heart into every moment they shared. In addition to his fatherhood, Demetrius's personality was one of warmth, humor, and integrity. He was known for his generosity and for always being there for his friends and family. His cousin remembered him as a man who would give the shirt off his back to help someone in need. Demetrius was the type of person who believed in making a positive impact on others, no matter how big or small. His friends often described him as someone who never turned his back on anyone, always offering a kind word or a helping hand. But Demetrius's faith also played a crucial role in his life. In his downtime, he would often attend church services and read the Bible, finding peace and guidance through his spiritual practices. His connection to his faith was a grounding force in his life, helping him maintain perspective as he worked to balance his career, family, and personal growth.
The scripture says, he that finds a wife finds a good thing. It didn't say he that finds a girl that he's attracted to, who he then begins to date, who he then calls his girlfriend, who he then buys a ring, proposes, and makes her his fiance, who he then marries later, who becomes his wife. You're not a wife when I marry you, you're a wife when I find you. You become my wife when I marry you. But a wife is not the presence of a ring, it's the presence of your character.
Despite the setbacks and challenges Demetrius faced, including the physical toll of bull riding, he continued to chase his dreams with determination. His love for the sport never waned, and his goal was always to provide the best future possible for his daughter. As he continued to build his career and make a name for himself, Demetrius also worked hard to create a stable and loving home for Nyla. But in the midst of his thriving career and personal life, tragedy struck. While Demetrius had worked tirelessly to build the life he dreamed of, his personal life was never simple. He was in a relationship with LaShawn Denise Bagley, a 22-year-old woman from Salt Lake City, Utah, a romance that would eventually lead to fatal consequences. Demetrius's relationship with LaShawn was never easy. The two were in and off a relationship, seeing each other when it was convenient but struggling to find stability. They had an understanding and things appeared calm on the surface, but underneath, unresolved issues festered. But nothing could have prepared them for how the relationship would change the course of his life. Their relationship reached a breaking point during a trip Demetrius made to Salt Lake City to compete in the PRCA rodeo at the Utah State Fair. While in town, Demetrius stayed with LaShawn on the night of the event. His family and friends were there to support him as he competed. But things would take a dark turn that night. After the rodeo competition, Demetrius wanted to unwind, so he, LaShawn, and another woman decided to meet up at the state fair. The three of them then went to a club near downtown Salt Lake City to continue the evening. But then, LaShawn would see Demetrius showing interest in the other woman. She was overwhelmed with jealousy. LaShawn stormed off, furious, and Demetrius followed her to the parking garage to try and calm her down. But the tension continued to escalate. Demetrius told LaShawn that he wanted to collect his things and leave, but this only upset LaShawn the more. In her anger, she drove off in her car, nearly hitting Demetrius as she left. He in turn ordered a rideshare and proceeded to her apartment, determined to retrieve her belongings and leave. The situation was becoming increasingly fraught, but all Demetrius wanted was his bull riding gear and to move on. But however, as Demetrius stood outside LaShawn's apartment trying to retrieve his things, he would face a tragic fate. What he didn't know was that LaShawn was already preparing for a violent confrontation. Demetrius and the woman he was with stood outside LaShawn's apartment, knocking on the door and calling her, but LaShawn refused to answer. As Demetrius approached the door, he likely hoped to end the encounter peacefully, collecting his things and leaving. But LaShawn had other plans. In a moment of rage, LaShawn opened fire on Demetrius through her apartment door, shooting him 7 times. Some of the bullets struck Demetrius, leaving him wounded as he collapsed outside. On a 911 call before the shooting, LaShawn had reportedly called 911 and told the operator, "They're beating on my window." The 911 operator then heard loud noises and asked LaShawn what the noise was, to which she allegedly replied, "I'm shooting." The woman Demetrius had been with immediately called 911, telling the operator she shot him through the door. By the time the police arrived, Demetrius was lying on the ground, barely alive. As officers apprehended LaShawn, she reportedly asked, "Is he all right? Can I use my firearm?" It was clear from her behavior that she had no remorse for her actions. When questioned, LaShawn admitted that after seeing Demetrius with another woman, she went home, put his belongings by the door, and then decided to shoot him when he came for them. The 911 call made by the woman Demetrius had provided critical details. She described how LaShawn opened fire on Demetrius through the apartment door, hitting him with several bullets. During interrogation, police noticed that LaShawn's speech was slurred and they could smell alcohol on her breath. When police did a test, they discovered that LaShawn had been drinking with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.08. Despite being intoxicated, LaShawn was aware enough to plan and execute the shooting. Investigators found no signs of forced entry into the apartment, which supported the narrative that Demetrius was unarmed and only attempting to retrieve his things when he was shot. LaShawn was arrested and charged with murder and felony discharge of a firearm, but her involvement in Demetrius's death did not end there.
A professional bull rider from Texas is dead after being in a domestic violence incident in Salt Lake last night.
Police say the man rode in last night's rodeo at the Utah State Fair. The happened early this morning in the ballpark area near 900 South and 200 West.
Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser spoke to the man's loved ones who say his career was just now starting. She joins us live tonight from Salt Lake Police Headquarters. Emily.
Bob, Kelly LaShawn Bagley, 21-year-old woman here in Salt Lake City. She was arrested earlier today. The victim's real name is Demetrius Allen, but he was best known in the bull riding community and among his loved ones as Ouncy Mitchell. He leaves behind a 4-year-old daughter.
In a chilling follow-up, LaShawn, who had been released due to police still conducting their investigation, with strict conditions placed upon her release, including no contact with Allen's family, decided to flee Salt Lake City after the shooting, leaving the state just as the investigation was ramping up. This prompted a fugitive warrant, as authorities realized that LaShawn's escape was a clear indication of her attempt to avoid justice. With LaShawn on the run, it wasn't long before law enforcement tracked her down. But would her capture bring any sense of closure for Demetrius's family, or would it only deepen their pain? LaShawn was eventually apprehended in Fort Bend County, Texas, after several weeks on the run. On January 3, 2023, LaShawn was taken into custody on a murder warrant issued in connection with Demetrius's death.
A woman wanted for the murder of a Houston area professional bull rider has been arrested in Fort Bend County. Law enforcement took 22-year-old LaShawn Denise Bagley into custody on January 3rd on a murder warrant after she left Utah during the investigation into the shooting death of 27-year-old Demetrius Allen, better known as Ouncy Mitchell. Sion Rhodes live in the newsroom with reaction from his family tonight. Sion.
Keith, Salt Lake City police arresting LaShawn Denise Bagley shortly after the incident back in September, but they released her while they continued their investigation. That's when she left Utah.
Authorities had been actively searching for her, and her arrest was seen as a crucial step in the pursuit of justice for Demetrius. The arrest, though a significant development, was a bittersweet moment for Demetrius's family. While they were relieved that LaShawn had been caught, the emotional toll of her actions weighed heavily on them. LaShawn's escape only added to the trauma and heartache they had already endured. Demetrius's mother, Laquita Allen, and his other family members expressed their shock and disbelief over the senseless violence that took her son's life. Demetrius's family couldn't grapple with the absurdity of how he had been taken from them. LaShawn's flight from justice did not go unnoticed. Many in the community were frustrated that LaShawn had not been immediately arrested and held accountable for her actions. They questioned why she had been released after the initial arrest and why it took so long for the investigation to lead to her capture. Yet, despite these frustrations, Demetrius's family remained determined to see the case through, hoping that LaShawn's arrest would bring them one step closer to justice. As the legal process began to unfold, Demetrius's family was forced to confront the unbearable loss of their loved one. How could they begin to heal from the tragic death of a young man with so much promise and potential? The pain was overwhelming, but they remained resilient, determined to fight for justice and find closure. Throughout 2023, LaShawn stayed in custody while her defense attorneys argued that she had acted in self-defense. In August of that year, a preliminary hearing took place where detectives and witnesses offered differing accounts of the confrontation. Prosecutors insisted that Demetrius Allen was unarmed and posed no immediate threat to LaShawn, while the defense maintained that she feared for her life during the altercation. They emphasized the self-defense argument, pointing to Utah's Stand Your Ground laws and asserting that the evidence supported her right to use deadly force in the confrontation. Then, on January 7, 2024, Judge Mark Cowris of Utah's 3rd District Court made a pivotal ruling. The charges against LaShawn were dismissed. The court determined that LaShawn's actions were legally justified under Utah's self-defense laws. This ruling effectively closed the case with no trial or sentencing to follow. For Allen's family, the dismissal of the charges brought a sense of deep frustration and disappointment. They felt that justice had been denied, as they would never have the opportunity to see the person responsible for Demetrius's death face a trial. On the other hand, LaShawn's attorneys celebrated the ruling. They stressed that it validated her right to defend herself during what they argued was a violent confrontation. While the case came to an end, the emotional toll on both families was far from over. Demetrius's family had to live with the reality that their son's death was dismissed in a court of law, while LaShawn was allowed to walk free, leaving them searching for a sense of justice in a broken system. The debate around self-defense laws and their interpretation continues, but for the Allen family, nothing could bring back their beloved Demetrius, and the pain of his loss would linger indefinitely. Demetrius's family was devastated by his sudden and violent death. The Allen family, like many others, was left to grapple with the emotional scars left by Demetrius's death and the injustice they never got. For Laquita, it was a crushing blow. Demetrius had been the light of her life, and the thought of never seeing him again was almost too much to bear. But despite the deep grief, Demetrius's family remained determined to honor his memory. Ezekiel, Demetrius's best friend and cousin, spoke of Demetrius's impact, saying, "Ezekiel, along with other family members, vowed to carry on Demetrius's legacy, especially for his young daughter, Nyla, who now faced a life without her father." As the news of Demetrius's death spread, the bull riding community and others who knew him rallied together to honor his memory.
And families said their final farewells to a Houston native professional bull rider today. 27-year-old Demetrius Allen, professionally known as Ouncy Mitchell, was shot and killed in Utah in what police are calling a case of domestic violence. Salt Lake City police arresting his girlfriend in connection with his death. Our Real One Balogan was at the service and has more on the investigation.
The professional bull rider in Utah while on a trip. Today, his family and friends say their final goodbyes to Ouncy Mitchell.
Ouncy was determined and happy-go-lucky and confident all the time. He had everything that it took to be at the highest level of competition in professional rodeo.
Mourners like Anthony Thomas paid their respects to Demetrius Omar Lafitte Allen, better known as Ouncy Mitchell, the Houston area native professional bull rider, earlier this month in Salt Lake City, Utah.
He was well known and respected. As a rising star, Demetrius had earned admiration from fans and fellow bull riders alike. His dedication to his craft and his sportsmanship had made him a favorite among those who shared his passion for bull riding. Following his death, PBR officials and other riders expressed their condolences. Demetrius's loss was felt across the world, but it was especially painful for his family and those closest to him. They were left mourning a talented, charismatic man whose life was cut short by a senseless act of violence. While Demetrius's life was tragically cut short, his legacy continues to live on. Demetrius Ouncy Mitchell's legacy is not just in the bull riding arena, but in the way he touched the lives of those around him. He was known for his sportsmanship, humility, and love for his family. His daughter, Nyla, will grow up knowing that her father was a hero, someone who dedicated his life to his craft, but also someone who loved her with all his heart. The pro bull rider community continues to honor Demetrius's memory. At the Houston Livestock and Rodeo, where Demetrius was supposed to make his debut, the organizers issued his back number as a tribute to the rider who was on the verge of breaking through to the top ranks of the sport. Fellow bull riders and fans alike remember him for his fierce determination and kindness. As we reflect on Demetrius's life and tragic death, we must ask ourselves, how can we prevent domestic violence from claiming more lives? Domestic violence takes many forms, but its consequences are always devastating. As we close this chapter of Demetrius's life, let's remember him not only for his career and accomplishments, but for the impact he had on those around him. His story serves as a reminder that life is fragile, and we must cherish each moment, each loved one, and each opportunity we have to make a difference. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.